today. It's gonna be a good day for you and me. Oh, for you and me. La 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 la, we'll be so happy. It's gonna be a good day. La 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 la, we'll be so happy, happy. It's gonna be a good, good day.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session on active learning. And the presentation title is Put on Cultural Glasses and Jump Active Learning Design in Online Courses, or how to turn your traditional online assignments into active learning assignments. My name is Tiantong Xu. I'm an instructional designer from eCampus at Oregon State University. And before we start, here's a link that you can go and do some brainstorming on your idea of what learning is, what active learning is. And these are what some of the participants that already done. And there's also another place for us to share if you're using computer. This will help us create a word cloud collaboratively. Okay, now let's go back and continue. Okay. So from what we have gathered from the online collaboration on Padlet wall, we can see that many people mentioned about learning has to have a clear idea of what you're trying to teach or what we're trying to learn. That's the content part, or that can be your learning outcome, your learning objectives, and we need to make sure that it aligns with our activity that we're going to design. And many people also mentioned about experiences. So we want to make sure in our learning experience that we design, we want to provide a rich content material and provide the student with a rich experience. And here you can see a short demo of how online courses look like at eCampus at Oregon State University.
I'm Stan Gregory. I'm your instructor in eCampus Limnology. And today we're out on Cronmiller Pond on the College Forest at Oregon State University.
Hi everyone, welcome to EA 550.
Welcome to ANS 121.
Hola, me llamo Anuncia Escala y soy de Barcelona.
Today we have Dr. Ben Zhu.
Hello, I'm Phil Pepe. Welcome to Bio 345, Introduction to Evolution, which bridges the study of evolutionary science and society.
Song. Shalom. Ezo tmuna matima lamilima baot.
And so in our sample space, we'll have that it could land on red, it could land on blue, or it could land on yellow.
With that said, I greatly look forward to your participation.
So we've mentioned like we I'll agree that the learning has to have a very clear outcome, and we want to provide the student with rich experience. And the next thing we need to pay attention to is make sure the learning activity will help the student associate their knowledge. So we'll provide a practice time and an activity that will help the student to link from what they already know to what they are trying to learn. And finally, the activity we design, we're hoping to help transform the student from a novice to an expert. With that being said, with that being our prior knowledge of what online learning is, next let's look at active learning and how do we design active learning based on Bluner's The Culture of Education. There's 4 aspects of active learning according to Bruner, and these are the 4. Increasing autonomy or agency in the assignment in the learning process, provide feedback, peer review, and reflections in the learning, and also adding collaboration opportunity for students. Last but not least, adding cultural awareness to the assignment. Okay. Actually, I want to first be able to mention about the cultural awareness. That's actually something we want to consider first when we start to design an online activity or an online assignment. Here's a few examples. In a writing course, the instructor wants the student to be able to practice interview skills. So if you just say, go home and practice interview skills, guess how many students will actually do it? So we realized this might be a challenge to students, to online students. So we looked into different kinds of online programs, and we find one. It's called Interview Stream. It actually allows students to participate. They will be given some examples, and they have time and space to practice interview skills with automated online interviewers. And their answers will be recorded, and they can play back, and they can get feedback. So that become a very popular tool to students who want to practice their interview skills. And also in Business Now, this course we worked really hard to provide rich content in the course. But then we realized that we didn't actually talk about the now part. So the instructor and I brainstormed together, and we figured that we could add a discussion board activity, call it newsroom reporting, and allow the students to report a piece of business-related news and explain how it's connected to the current week's content, and also explain the important aspect of that business news in terms of what the students are learning that week. So each student has a chance to do a news report during the term, and they also are required to comment on a few of their peers' news reporting. And collaboratively, this is our open forum for the whole class, and everybody can see what their classmates have posted and can comment and create a discussion. And another example, in the master's program in engineering management, we analyzed and found that many of the students do not or they have forgotten how to do citations because they have been in the workforce so long, they've been away from school for so long. So we contacted the Writing English department and get some resources and the permission to use from English teachers. So we provided trainings on how to provide do citation, and we also find online active practices that the student can check to see if they know how to cite appropriately. Okay, next element in active learning is adding autonomy or agency in the assignment. For example, in a BYU course, the instructional design students, they are assigned to collaboratively work on a book, and the end product becomes this published book called Project Management for Instructional Designers. So that is one excellent example of how to add autonomy to assignments. And also I have a coworker, Jonan Donaldson, who teach an online course and assign the students to write a book together, Massively Open, to report on what MOOC is and the latest development in MOOC education. And personally, I've learned how to create an e-portfolio using WordPress as the result of a course I take, and the assignment is to create an online portfolio. And there's another example at Purdue University. An instructor, Tim Newby, asked the student to use Web 2.0 tools to collect all the information on Web 2.0 tools, on photo editing, video editing, on collaboration tools. So for an undergraduate course, upper level. And this ended up to be a very popular website that is still existing. Another element in active learning is lots of feedback from the instructor, from peers, and the personal reflection and peer review. This is the part that most instructors are not using, but which is very important. Think how much you have learned. You come to a conference and you go back and you reflect, you write down what you learned, and that's the part. If you didn't take that time to write down or to work on, to act on what you have learned, then soon it just becomes lost. Or when you are learning something new, allow yourself a time for reflection, for peer review, for feedback, and for improvement. That's really critical. And the last important element is collaboration. And we've already seen that we've collaborated using Padlet, using Answer Garden, and you can also using other tools like Google Doc, Google Hangout, or discussion board, peer review to collaborate. And the area you can use active learning design, it's not limited to writing, to engineering, to business. It can be almost in any field. And the end result of courses using the active learning design is we have more satisfied students and happier graduates. And now it's practice time, and we will break the room into groups. So each group can be working on different ways to transform, to change online quizzes, by adding these 4 elements to make it more active and more effective, and how to change a regular assignment into an active assignment, and how to change a discussion board into a more active learning discussion board. And we will come back and report or type it up on the Padlet on this link and share the result of our collaboration. And thank you very much for all your participation.